Hi tribe, and welcome to this new video in which of course I will continue to share my knowledge with you. And in this particular episode I want to discuss about two main topics. In the first part I want to teach you some new drills that you can implement in your training, and it will help you much faster to make the transition between empty hands and your knife. And in the second part I want to learn you how you can treat an injury, a puncture, a penetrating injury to your chest by using a commercial chest seal or by improvising one. So I will start now by showing you different kind of drills that you can implement in your training to learn to make the transition between empty hands and your knife, your blade, but also to reduce that time in which you make this transition. The main problem what I'm seeing around is that people are training separately on different topics. For example, separately they are learning self-defense using hand-to-hand combat or making sport combat disciplines, learning to strike, learning ground fighting and so on, and separately they are using or learning techniques with the blade or fire weapon and so on. But the main idea is to be able to program our brain to understand and to make that connection between and that transition between empty hands and the blade, between empty hands and your fire weapon, between ground fighting and your blade. So if you take somebody that is a very good shooter, very good, he has very good marksmanship, shooting very good, all the time going to the shooting range, making this, and suddenly you put it in a situation in which is attacked from close quarter distance, having a retention on the weapon or being put under stress and pressure factor, that drills that he was able to perform in a relaxed environment, shooting precise to his target, it will change, it will not be anymore able to perform at the same level. The same with other kind of things. So we must understand that we must learn, even if we learn things separately, we must make different kind of trainings that will combine hands-to-hands combat, blades or fire weapons, so we know to make that transition. Not all the time you will be in an ambush in which immediately I'm standing, something is happening, somebody is attacking, I'm in an ambush, deploying my blade, striking directly with my blade, creating distance or move or evade. Maybe you will be in a situation that everything is starting with a verbal confrontation, it's starting with a verbal conflict, passing then to a hand-to-hand type of aggression, striking and so on, and maybe after a blade or a knife is put in the fight. So you must be able, if I am in a hand-to-hand combat type of situation, I cannot take immediately in that moment my blade to stab the other one because I will go to prison. So first it must be a step-by-step process in which I am choosing the right tactics and the right response to defend myself. So I'm not saying here that you must be an expert in hand-to-hand combat, but at least to be able for a limited amount of time to protect yourself, to have a counter, to have some basic striking skills that will not put you in that situation going to the ground, or even if you are going to the ground to get KO or to receive stabs and other kind of injuries from multiple aggressors, that they are using the same tactics of closing the distance, having their blade prepared, and maybe one, you are entering in a hand-to-hand combat with one target, having a tunnel vision on that target, and the other can change their position, deploying their blades and stab you. Like we can already see in so many real footages with knife attacks. So my main point here is that you must have some basic skills, not only using the blade, not only using your fire weapon, but also some basic skills of striking and some basic skills of ground fighting. So if you are tomorrow you are facing a person that is a very good ground fighter, it will have so much explosion that you will find yourself at the ground if you never not only train, but you are never try to understand how this is functioning. And that blade that you have at you, if you are not able to resist at least few seconds there and to be able to deploy it from your concealed carry position, can be an appendix position, can be, I don't know, other types of positions in which maybe you are carrying, it will not help you. So you need some basic skills to resist some seconds so you can deploy that blade or other type of tools. I don't know what type of tools you are. Maybe you are working in like a law enforcement, you have your handgun, you are put it on the ground, the situation is degenerating and is permitting you to use deadly force, but you didn't have the training and you didn't put yourself under stress and pressure factor to be able to deploy that fire weapon, for example, in that particular situation. So again, understand that it's not existing, I am good with the blade, it's enough. No, it's not enough. It's not existing, I am a good shooter with my fire weapon and that is all. No, it's not. It's a complex of many skills that you must train and acquire. From physical shape, if you have 120 kilos, you are shooting all the time very good with your weapon, but you are having 120 kilos and you cannot go until the second level of your building without increasing your heartbeats and your pulse, means that you will have a problem when you really be in a situation in which the adrenaline will rush in your body and all these changes will happen. So physical shape, blades, fire weapons, striking techniques, ground fighting, it must be together, again, not an expert level, but at least to have some knowledge when you put it all together to increase your chances of surviving. Too many Hollywood movies, too many types of, self-defense industry that they are teaching things that can be demonstrated, but they cannot be applied in a real situation. So the first drill that I will show you is basically a combination between two simple strikes. We don't go with the complex techniques. Doesn't matter that I am teaching about the blades or I'm telling you a combination between two strikes like now, we don't go for complex things. Again, I'm not an instructor, I'm not an expert in hand-to-hand combat. My main goal and my main type of material that and content and knowledge that I can offer is involving blades and fire weapons, trauma medicine, but of course that this is the reason why I say also earlier, we must have some decent type of skills when we talk also about hand-to-hand combat. And hand-to-hand combat for me, when we talk about standing in the fits, is meaning at least some simple boxing, striking, yeah, some jabs, cross, hooks and so on, nothing more. So my main goal when I'm talking about hand-to-hand combat is not that I am in that particular situation wanted to protect my life or the ones around me and I'm standing to fight with my bare hands. I will never win even if I am even if I am making this like at the professional level. I am not, but even if I will make this, if I have multiple aggressors, 3, 4, blades are put in the fight and so on, very hard, impossible, empty hands against this kind of scenario. Especially when we talk about an ambush, this means that they will use deceptive techniques to find the right moment when you are not aware so they can deliver their attack. So my main goal when I say about empty hands is using that 1-2 strikes to create the space and the distance so I can deploy my weapon that is in a concealed carry position. This is all, nothing more. So if I'm talking about the first drill, understand, for example, that we don't need complex techniques, neither when we speak about knives, neither when we speak about striking or hand-to-hand combat techniques. I don't know what kind of joint locks, and I don't know what kind of combinations that you see in the majority of the commercial self-defense systems will not work, because your brain in a real situation under stress and pressure factors, when the adrenaline is rushing in your body, one of the effects, letting aside the others, is that your brain cannot operate complex activities in the same manner how it's operating in a relaxed environment. This is the reason why the best solutions when we talk about hand-to-hand combat are simple striking techniques. Simple techniques that you find in boxing, in kickboxing, and so on. Not complicated stuff. So I am using that 1-2 strikes to create the space so I can deploy my blade. So I can start this drill and you can implement it being in a non-combative stanza. This means with the hands up, open, palms towards my aggressor, towards my target. The psychological level if I combine this with what my target will see, it's a person that is raising the hands, not being in the posture of him wanted to fight in that moment. If I clench my fists in that moment, I have 2-3 aggressors, and immediately I make my eyebrows, I am clenching my fists and trying to go towards, they will already change their tactics, they will already put the knives in the fight, they will already stab or being more aggressive than before. So this is the first idea. The second is that when I am putting my hands near my body, I have still my hands up in a position that I can transform from this to some punches, or also I can block myself trying to cover if an ambush attack with fists and so on is delivered on me. But this type of situation in which I am with the hands more up near my chest, being near, it's not applying when I am in an ambush. If already an ambush was starting, I am seeing one guy that is coming towards me with a blade, I'm not raising my hands standing there or I don't know what. I will create the space immediately, moving from that X, how all the time I'm saying, moving from the danger zone, creating space as much as I can, and deploy my blade, being ready to use my weapon. This type of drill that I'm showing you here is applying more for the situation in which an ambush was not starting. I'm in a pre-fight scenario. But I am arriving in that point in which I am identifying all the signs and I must start an action. I must make a movement. And we'll discuss different kind of scenarios. Again, I'm not teaching a fixed technique, the technique from the PACE 72. It's not existing this. I am teaching principles. These principles you are taking and putting in your training, testing, modifying, and make all this type of trainings in which you will understand if it will function, how it will function, what you must do, that this can be a response of your brain in a real situation. If you fix yourself on fixed techniques, your brain will learn a pattern that will try to reproduce also in the real situation. But in the real situation, things, they will not be fixed. Everything will change. Everything will influence that situation. So what we must learn are principles, not fixed things. I'm showing you some drills, but all the time you can combine it, you can change it, but maintaining the same elements. And that elements are, even if I'm talking about about blades, awareness, deploying fast your blade under stress and pressure factors, striking fast, striking precise, create distance. So I'm in a non-combative stanza, I'm not wanted to fight, maybe I have multiple aggressor, and the main thing is that I don't need in this moment to go to take my blade and to step. If I'm making this and my target, my aggressor in front of me, he don't have a weapon, and I'm taking the blade and stab him, of course we understand what is happening. But because of the situation, I have multiple aggressors, only like a scenario, maybe one other that is 2 meters more far, he was already taking a blade, folding knife outside, he has it near his leg, standing there, not attacking, but it's already intimidating, and I know that that is the moment in which I must take an action. So from this type of position, I will make a simple drill of 2 strikes, a jab towards the face, a cross, and after these 2 strikes, what I am doing, I am moving my body, putting my shoulder, protecting my chin, because this hand, what it must do, it must go towards my shirt, taking the shirt, and I must liberate my knife. So I still try, even if I was giving that punch, to give a protection towards, protect my chin with my shoulder and the hand up. When I catch already the shirt, of course I am creating more distance, going and taking my blade outside. Why I'm not striking? This guy doesn't have a weapon, but I need that weapon because I was identifying all the threats, and I know that this is the moment in which I must take action and take my blade outside to not be catch in the ambush without deployment, being with the weapon in the appendix position. Even if this is looking very fast, deploying from here, in reality when we talk about an ambush, it's not so fast. So again, from this position, non-combative stanza, simple strike, a jab, a cross, moving, protecting with my shoulder, and with the other hand going on my shirt, liberating the space, my knife, extracting my blade, creating more distance, and being ready to use my blade. So this is a simple drill that is helping you to make a transition, to program your brain to understand that you can be in a hand-to-hand combat type of situation, and suddenly you must pass and be in a situation in which you must use your blade. So here, 1, 2, going back, protect. Again, I'm not giving here and remaining on the place, deploying my blade. Why? I can be catched, I can have retention of the weapon. I have also the others that they are very close of me. So already when I'm giving the strikes, I am moving my body, taking my blade outside. Very simple here. Taking the blade and being ready to use it. Protecting, going, taking my blade, being already with it outside. Don't forget, very important, creating that distance. I'm not making 1, 2, remaining here, deploy my blade, very close to this. I'm already going back here, 1, 2, already going back. If I have time to make a lot of space, this is neither needing there. This is more needed when I am delivering my strikes and still I am more close to my target. It's possible maybe to catch me with a type of strike, so this is the reason why I protect here. But if I am very fast to move back, So very fast. Look how much distance is created in here. I don't need anymore so much protection with that hand. Here, 1, 2, moving my body. Already this is going on the shirt. Taking, deploying my blade, being in a combative stance, ready to use my blade. Again, when we talk about this type of position in which I am in a non-combative stance with my hands palms towards, your strikes must be not telegraphed. You must not telegraph your movements. I'm not wanted to use so much power. I'm not wanted, many they are believing that moving your body, making this kind of movements, they will gain more power, possible, but the main idea is that also you telegraph the movement. So the other that is in front, very easy to change his body position, very easy to raise his hands up or to try to block it. This is the reason why the type of the strikes that you need to put there are more distracting, taking the attention in such a way that is permitting you to deploy, to create a space to deploy your blade. If from that punch it's going KO, the chance is not so big, because it's very hard. If you look also in a professional type of, I don't know, boxing fights and so on, not so easy is happening KO. On the street it's the same. Your target will have unpredictable movements. It will not be a fixed target that is waiting for you to strike in that moment. It can happen, yes, of course. If that is happening, it's happening. But I am going on the idea that I need that strikes only to help me to create that distance, because I need my blade. I need my blade as fast as I can outside. So simple drill from here, 1, 2, moving my body. If I'm too close, going, deploying my blade. If I already have the possibility to move fast, from here, 1, 2, already taking my blade, entering in this position. When we talk about striking in this way, with the fists, with the knuckles, we already know the first 2 knuckles the right way. But I want also to underline something. If you don't have good striking techniques, if you don't have good striking skills, I don't recommend to strike with the fist. And I will tell you now only a short story, maybe you know it. When Mike Tyson, it was in his prime, he was having a street fight with another boxer, and in that fight he was punching so hard that he was breaking his hand. He was striking in a hard part, imagine your skull, like the frontal bone. It was striking and he was breaking his hand. In a boxing type of fight, we have the gloves, and that is protecting more your hands. If I am talking about my target, not understanding what is happening and giving like a sucker punch without my target to know and taking by surprise, then it's not existing so much risk. But if you are delivering your punches and your target already is in a combative stance, he will not be a fixed target. So if you don't have good striking skills, and even sometimes if you have, and the example I was saying earlier with Mike Tyson, can happen that you are injuring your hand. And why I'm not recommending that, especially if you don't have the skills, because what is our main goal? Not the hand-to-hand combat type of fight, but only to create that distance so I can deploy my blade. Now imagine that you are striking with power, your target is moving his body, is trying to protect, you are striking the frontal bone or a hard part of the skull, breaking your fingers, breaking your knuckles, and now you go like you are training to deploy your blade. You cannot use that hand anymore. The same if you have a fire weapon. You will not be able anymore to grip and to perform with that hand. So understand what is our goal. What is your goal? And again, I want to underline, we deploy the blade only in that situation when we need to use deadly force to eliminate or incapacitate the target to protect our life, our family, or the ones around. So if I was seeing in this particular situation that other from these aggressors was taking a blade outside, I am maybe with my family, or maybe there are other civilians, and it's existing this type of situation, then you deploy that blade from there. So please understand the concept in which and what is the logic and the combat mindset behind deploying that blade. All the techniques that we are doing with the blades, and I'm showing you here, are deadly techniques. I'm not showing you how you can lacerate the muscle so your target, it will be, I don't know, it will suffer some pain and it will not be able to use that hand, I don't know, after for a few months. I am referring to techniques in which I am showing you how you incapacitate, how you eliminate the target. That because we already are in a situation in which we must stop that aggressor, because otherwise you are losing your life or the ones around you. So understand this concept. So coming back to our idea, our goal is to deploy our primary weapon. It can be the knife if it's the only one, or if you have a knife and a fire weapon, of course fire weapon is remaining the primary weapon, the superior efficient weapon. So if you don't have good striking techniques, or you want to be able to be in a safe situation after, so you can deploy that weapon, I recommend from the non-combative stance where you are, of course it's not comparing with a punch, hitting with the hard part of the palms. This is not a powerful strike. This it will never compare with a punch. For example, how you are making in, how you are learning in boxing, for example, putting your twisting your hips, putting all twisting your wrist and so on, and hitting with the knuckles. But again, we come back to the next what I was saying earlier. We need our hands to not be injured so you can deploy that weapon. So from this position I can make the same strikes like it was with the fists, but only that I'm giving with the hard parts of the palms, going to that nose, not to incapacitate, not to go to make him to go KO. My goal is to drag that attack fast, so I can go back, I can create that distance to deploy my weapon. It can be only one strike, I can be here, one strike, deploy my weapon. Main goal, being able to create that space so I can take pulling time the blade in the fight. So the drill that you can make it, and I recommend to practice the both. Yeah, not limit yourself only because you are hearing now this story with Mike Tyson and with the fists and so on. Limit yourself to the striking with the palms, because still if I will be in a fight, I will prefer to strike with the fist, to strike with the knuckles. But depending on the situation and on the skills that you have, I recommend basically that you train the both. So the second skill is using the palms. I'm in the same position. I have one, pushing my body, 1, 2, and I am making the same thing. 1, 2, moving. If I'm too close, I'm making the same thing, covering with my shoulder and with my hand up, deploying my blade, being ready to use. Or if I'm fast and I can create, I have that explosion of creating space, I'm here, 1, 2, already creating distance, and I am with the blade outside, ready to use it. Then another type of drill that is basically based on this first drill, for example, I'm in the same non-combative stance, I'm striking 1, I'm striking 2, moving, trying to move my body, but now I'm seeing that, of course, we go on a scenario. We go in such a way that we understand more types of movements, more types of angles in which we can hit and so on. The scenario, only to make you understand, is that maybe I was hitting, maybe he's moving his body, maybe he's not taking that strikes how I was thinking. I was not so precise. He's moving his body and now he's taking from his pocket or he's deploying the blade outside trying to strike. So in this situation, all it will change, it will not be only 1, 2, 3 and entering with my blade here. If I already identify when I'm making that particular technique, I'm here not wanted to fight, strike very fast there. When I'm seeing now that maybe he was making movements, not taking that strike and is going, deploying his blade, when I'm moving that at me, this movement is transforming already in a strike. So already I am, in the time that I'm moving, striking towards. I'm not permitting him to advance and to use his blade. So here, don't want to fight 1, 2, this is the drill. Trying to go to deploy like in the first technique, but now I identify his movements. So what I'm doing when I'm extracting, I am already going towards a strike and creating that distance. Here, 1, 2, striking. The same like in the first step, if I am close and I try to use to cover a little bit myself, I'm using this. If I am fast when I have that explosion of movement, I'm going directly towards to take my blade, because already I will be in a safer position, not in a safe position, safer. So I'm here, not wanted to fight, I have 1, 2, taking, boom, already striking. So it's a combination of strike 1, striking, going. Where I'm striking? Normally I go towards the trachea, towards the eye. Like this we are training to be precise. Is this so simple? No, of course. But even if I will go towards the facial bones, smashing the teeth, entering in the face with my blade, still it's a shock strike. It's incapacitate him in that moment? No. If I'm striking the eye, if I'm striking the trachea, it's a shock type of strike, that yes. But in rest, it will not incapacitate him, only a shock for that particular movement that he's making. So I'm here, from here I have 1, 2, striking, taking my blade, striking towards the face. Boom. And the same thing I can use with the second, with the palms, but combine it with a strike. I'm here, I don't want to fight, and suddenly I have 1, 2, moving my position, identifying the blade, going towards, creating that distance. Here, so these are the 2 types of drills that you can implement in your training in such a way that you understand better how to make a transition between empty hands and your blade. This, of course, can be modified with different kind of strikes, but the main idea is to be able to make the transition between empty hands and your blade. When we talk about types of injuries that the knife can create, we have 2. The penetrating type of injury, the stabbing, and of course the cutting injuries. Today I will discuss about the penetrating ones, stabbing, puncture with your blade. In the majority of the cases, when you look at real situations, the victims were receiving a lot of strikes at the level of the thoracic box. It's a big target and it's very easy to hit, to aim and to hit, to be precise, to hit that particular area. And of course today I want to discuss about the puncture wounds to the lungs and what is the mechanism of these injuries and how we can treat this type of injuries. So I was arranging on my training dummy. If you see here, you have the lungs. I want to underline that these are not respecting 100% the proportions of the anatomical body and so on, but only like an idea to understand better what I want to talk and what I want to learn you. So we have the lungs, and if you see, if we think at the target, as I say earlier, it's a big target. So even if you are having different kind of strikes, even if you are having in a reverse grip and you want to strike from up down, like in the majority of the situations the attackers are stabbing, or if they are stabbing from down up, all the injuries that they are coming in this zone, even if I am stabbing like in this position from down up, my blade still can penetrate under the sternum bone, the xiphoid process, and to enter, to penetrate the pleura and to penetrate the lungs, of course. If I'm stabbing straight, the same. If I'm stabbing in the reverse grip from up down, still can penetrate, enter between the ribs and penetrate the pleura and the lungs. So it's not so complicated to stab the lungs. Also, if we are thinking at the target that it's with the back, in the majority of the situation, if the victim is running or trying to escape, many strikes are coming from behind. So if you imagine the back, the same, very easy to penetrate, to pass and to stab in the same area where we have the pleura and the lungs. I will tell you immediately why it's so important, this word that you hear, pleura, and what it's involving when this it's penetrating by a knife. I am discussing about injuries that they are performed using a low velocity object. So this, using a knife when I'm stabbing, or using a screwdriver, or using, doesn't matter, metal spike or something that will pass, it's a low velocity object. High velocity objects, for example, are the bullets. So when we think normally in the tactical type of trauma medicine, tactical combat casualty care, if my victim has an injury from the neck down until the groin, until down at the groin, all the time you are performing the same treatment by applying a chest seal. We will discuss immediately what is a chest seal and also how we can improvise if you don't have that already part of your trauma medical kit. So it doesn't matter that the wound, the injury, the entrance point is not on the lungs. If, for example, that wound was created by a bullet and it was entering, let's say, in this position or here at the level of the abdomen, still I will plug it in the same way by using a chest seal, because the bullet can enter there and then changing trajectory and going up, penetrating that pleura, penetrating the lungs and so on. So this is the reason why all the time when I have in this portion, neck until down, here under the belly, groins, I have a type of injury, entry wound, I will plug it with the chest seal. Every time we are looking also on the back, especially if we have a gunshot wound, but even if it's a normal stabbing, if I have a big type of knife or a big spike or a long screwdriver, maybe I can penetrate. In this situation with a long screwdriver, I don't think it's possible, but maybe because I have a big target, a massive target, but maybe with a big type of knife can have also an exit wound. So my blade can penetrate also on the other side, and this can happen especially when we have a gun shot wound. All the time we are looking also not only for entry wounds, but also for exit wounds. So doesn't matter if I'm finding a victim and I don't know if that type, maybe I'm not having the knowledge to recognize, to identify with what type of object was created that injury. If I see an entry wound, and even if it's at the level of the stomach, here, abdomen, I will try to plug it, because I don't know, maybe you don't know with what it was created, yeah? Of course, it's a lot of difference for the ones that they know how it's looking an entry wound that is created by a bullet and how it's looking a type of injury that is creating with the knife. Can be this type of injury that the victim is receiving at the level of the thoracic box, let's say penetrating the pleura and the lung, can be deadly, and of course in time this can become a deadly type of injury. At the beginning, if it's not treated, that chest wound, that open chest wound, that open pneumothorax, how it's called in a medical term, can develop in a tension pneumothorax. And immediately I will explain to you a little bit, not so complicated medical terms, but only to make you understand the process and how we can treat immediately that type of injury. Of course, until this, it will help the victim until the professional medical care is arriving. So I have here for you an illustration to make you better understand the process. Here you have one of the lungs that is more bigger than the other, and I will tell you immediately why. And here around, if you see, it's a difference of color. The lung is more dark with the red dark, and here you have a more lighter part that is representing the pleura, and the bubbles, blue bubbles inside, are representing the air. But basically, what is the pleura? The pleura is the space between the lungs and the thoracic box. In that space, it's existing basically negative pressure. So that is keeping the lungs stick on the thoracic box. So when you are breathing in and the thoracic box is expanding, also the lungs, because are stick with the thoracic box because of the pleura, are expanding, taking air in. Where they are contracting, they are giving the air outside. So this is the role of the pleura. It's basically a space with negative energy. So when a victim is receiving a stab with a knife that is perforating, penetrating that pleura, what is happening? It will be a hole in the pleura, and every time when the victim will take air in, air will enter in this pleura. Not only on your airway, but also on this hole. And in time, what is happening? Here is building more and more air that will put pressure on the lung, reducing it. If you are not treating, and I will discuss immediately how, this it will advance more and more, putting more pressure until the lung will collapse. More pressure pushing towards, we have the heart that it will be in the middle, pushing on the heart, pushing on the main blood vessels from that region. So it can transform, of course, from an open pneumothorax in a tension pneumothorax that is deadly if it's not treated immediately. So our role, what we must do, is to be able to plug that hole so air is not entering anymore inside. Like an idea, like what the victim is feeling, or you, if you are having this type of injury, basically you have a respiration distress, very hard to breathe, because air is entering also on that. And in time, when more and more air is built there, it will put pressure and it will lead to more complication. You can move in the moment that you receive this kind of wound, of course. You can move, you can still fight. It's not that you receive this wound and immediately you are falling down, you cannot move or something else. So these are only in the movies. But in time, of course, this air that is building more and more there, it will not permit you anymore to oxygenate, to take the oxygen that you need to have a normal type of inspiration and expiration transit of the air. And this will lead, of course, to the collapse of the lung and more complication, tension pneumothorax, and then, of course, death if you are not treating it. So now we'll discuss about how we can treat this. Because of course we are good with the blades, we can use it, we can fight with it. Different kind of Hollywood scenarios, everyone has when he's making his drill and so on. I want you to understand and to remain on the ground, to understand what is reality, how it will be in the reality, what you can train, what you must train more than I don't know how many drills using your blade, making patterns and changing angles and so on. So when we talk about blades, again I'm coming to the same discussion, basic simple fundamentals, being able to identify in time potential threats, being able to deploy your blade from your concealed carry fast under stress and pressure factors, striking fast, striking precise, moving, creating distance. And of course, without knowing some trauma medicine, also it's a problem, because if you are training yourself only to use your knife, but without knowing how to treat this type of injuries, means that you don't understand how reality its function, how it will be in reality. Maybe you are using your blade, maybe you are using your handgun, fire weapon. Of course, I'm a promoter of a fire weapon. If you have the possibility and the law is permitting you in your country to carry a fire weapon, carry one. Use the fire weapon. It's the most efficient and primary weapon that I recommend. If you don't have the possibility, of course, knife is remaining also an option of self-defense, to take it out only in the moment in which we are in the situation to use deadly force, so we can protect our life, our family, and the ones around us. But only making this and without knowing how to treat this type of injuries, it will be very complicated, because maybe you manage to eliminate your target using your weapon, your fire weapon, but until then maybe others around you, family members or civilians, are losing their life because you don't have the skills to stop a massive bleeding and you don't have the tools, or other type of injuries like today we discussed about an open pneumothorax, open chest wound. So very important, again, I underline, to understand that only blades, only training with the blades, only training with your fire weapon, it's not enough. It's more that you need to invest in, more knowledge that you must gain, and the situation and the chances that you need to use your blade in a fight are very, very low. More chances it will be that you will be, for example, near a car accident, and or you will have a car accident, or somebody near you needs a tourniquet to stop a massive bleeding or to give trauma medical care, than to use the blade and so on, that is more close to the Hollywood movies idea. I'm not saying I'm teaching knife defense skills or using this tool to create space and time to evade or apply other kind of tactics, but still I think that more than this, people are needing to have this type of knowledge. If you can have the both, perfect. So guys, when we are talking about treating this type of injury, sucking chest wound, open chest wound, open pneumothorax, many names, so a hole in your thoracic box. Again, I repeat, this, especially if you know that you are in a, let's say, an active shooter scenario, or you are a law enforcement officer and you are engaged in a firefight using weapons, fire weapons. and you know that your victim or others around, they were receiving this kind of wounds created by a high velocity object, a bullet, doesn't matter that the hole is not at the level of the thoracic box, but it's at the level of the abdomen or more up, you apply a chest seal. So this is all the time the idea, because again, I repeat, the bullet is changing trajectory. It can enter here and exit, going outside, going up, penetrate that pleura. So for treating this type of injuries, they are existing the commercial medical equipment known as chest seals. And here I have only one example. These are from Hashvent. There are many companies that they are creating chest seals. I am not I'm not making publicity to none of them. This is what I have, and another type. Only like an idea, the chest seals are two. They are coming in two variants: occlusive chest seals and vented chest seals. And immediately I will tell you the difference. Basically, all the chest seals will come together. These are splitting apart because I have it from some time, and because I want to not occupy so much space in my medical kit. I was breaking it in two, but they are coming together. Two are in one pack, because all the time, as I say earlier, you can have an entry wound and an exit wound. So these are the commercial chest seals. So I was discussing in the past, and I was creating a video especially for these chest seals. You can go in the past videos and check the video in which I am showing how to apply a chest seal. I'm not talking so much now about this. Only to see like an idea, I have here a medical dummy, and here on the chest it has one of these chest seals. So basically, when you open that package, you have inside this type of chest seal that on the interior of it has a lot of glue, very strong glue, and in the middle it's like a circle. And what you see here are some veins. Around the circles are some veins. So this type of chest seal is a vented chest seal. So if I have an injury in the middle, so let's say this is the injury that you see also here on the medical dummy, I'm coming with the middle of my chest seal exactly on it and glue it, stick it very good. So what is the difference between a vented chest seal and a occlusive chest seal? An occlusive chest seal will not have these veins. It will be only sticking on, and this is all. This that has these veins, it's more good. It's functioning much better than an occlusive one, because these veins are this chest seal. When my victim is breathing in, it's not permitting air to enter on the hole inside the pleura, but when it's breathing out, it's getting the air out. On these veins can release air and also can release liquid or blood, because can be an open pneumothorax or a hemothorax. Means that from the wound it's exiting also blood. The pleura is filled with blood, so it's exiting blood. So that these veins are permitting to the fluids, to the air and so on to exit outside. So better than an occlusive one. But also when you don't have a vented one, an occlusive one, it's still very good. So basically this is my victim. I was finding the injury, I was plugging the hole, putting the chest seal, and of course, as I say earlier, all the time we look also on the back. If it was existing an exit wound, we put also there, we plug the hole. Another very important aspect is that if I find that hole, I'm not letting that hole free and go to take my chest seal, open my bag, my medical kit, taking from there, because all this time, air is still entering inside. If I can, I will put one hand already on the wound. If it's a victim that I don't know and I have at me gloves, I will put gloves, of course, medical gloves, and I will put my palm, already plugging with my palm and with that material from the gloves, that hole, so is not entering more and more air until I'm opening the chest seal and so on. It will be not so easy to open with one hand and with your mouth helping to open that chest seal, but maybe you have a bystander. If you have a bystander, you can put him to keep pressure on that wound to stop, to plug the hole until you are able to take the chest seal. Or maybe the victim, it's conscious, he can still move himself, and maybe he can put his palm there, plugging that hole until you can put the chest seal on. Okay guys, but what I'm doing if I don't have these commercial medical chest seals? And again, I want to underline, having a trauma medical kit, especially a tourniquet, but one is none, two is one. So at least two, it's better than one. Then nothing, also one, it's good. A tourniquet for stopping massive bleeding when we talk about limbs, hands and arms. Imagine branchial artery lacerated, femoral artery lacerated. You can put a tourniquet, stop that massive bleeding. A chest seal package with two chest seals, so for puncture wounds, and a hemostatic gauze. Basically it's a gauze that is impregnated with a chemical agent that is helping faster the blood to coagulate, to clot. So if I have that, I can use it especially where I cannot use the tourniquet. If I have, for example, an axillary artery lacerated, here in the armpit, I cannot put sew up a tourniquet. So there I can make a wound packing with the hemostatic gauze and put pressure to stop that bleeding. The same if I have in the area of the femoral triangle. So there are parts, especially the junctional parts, areas of the body where a tourniquet cannot be applied. So the only variant remain direct pressure, or better, hemostatic gauze combined with direct pressure. The same when I'm talking about chest seal, very important to have it. But if you don't have, are existing different kind of variants, maybe you don't have the money. But again, talking about the costs, nothing, it's more important, and I don't think 20 euros or 30 euros of buying this kind of equipment, or 30 euros a tourniquet, it's more important than losing your life. So understand that these are the tools that you need to save your life or the ones around you. But if you don't have these kind of things, of course, when we talk about chest seals, you can improvise one, and I will tell you and show you immediately how. But I want to underline from the beginning, never an improvised thing will be so efficient or so good as a commercial equipment, medical equipment, that it was designed for this. So even if you tell me I have the skills, I know how to make a tourniquet from a cravat and a stick, man, will never have the same effect like a real tourniquet. One, second, not like a real tourniquet, like a commercial tourniquet, and second, it's taking time. So you to mount that cravat, to put the stick, to make all these activities is taking a long time. And when we talk about massive bleeding, for example, we talk about the greatest enemy, that is the time. If you are still, for example, in a tactical environment, active shooter scenario, so on, imagine standing there trying to prepare, for example, a tourniquet. So understand the limitation of an improvised thing. But still, if you have the possibility and you don't have other kind of things, you can make it also with an improvised one. And now I will show you immediately for the chest seals. So basically, what is a chest seal? We were having here a type of rubber material that or plastic material, some rubber material with a lot of glue that is sticking on the wound. we can create the same thing by using something through which the air cannot pass. For example, this, it's a plastic part that I was cutting from a bag that it was from plastic. This is with, sorry for destroy it, it's with Star Wars. I was cutting these squares, and this, if I would put it on the wound, the same air cannot pass through, because an occlusive dressing this is making. But I will try to show you, and you can make it not only occlusive, but you can make it also vented. So you will permit also the air to exit outside, or other type of liquids like blood or so on. So this type of things, or maybe a plastic, normal plastic. I have here a plastic bag, this with a zip that you can close it, or all the type of materials that they are not permitting the air, for example, to pass through. And other thing that you need, of course, is the good medical duct tape. I'm not talking about normal, I don't know, cheap type of duct tape, because we need to stick it on the body, on the skin, and when you have sweat, when you have blood or other kind of things, it must remain there. So guys, I have here my victim, only to make an idea. He has here the puncture wound, the entry wound that was penetrating his thoracic box. It was penetrating the pleura, like in this image, and now I must apply a chest seal. I have these improvised things. Of course, standing in that moment, cutting something is not so easy, but there are so many things that maybe you have a tube. If you have something, a packet from, I don't know, it can be some type of snacks or some types of, I don't know, protein bars or other thing that they are a little bit more bigger and they are from this type of material, you can open it and use that, of course, to cover very good the wound. Or you can make this from home. You can make these squares, 3-4 squares, you put it in your bag. You have also the duct tape, and you can very fast create a chest seal. So there are two types of making this improvised chest seal, and I will show first the most known of them, and I will show the second time the one that I consider a best variant of it. So I have this, of course, I am taking duct tape. In this moment, if I put gloves, of course, if I don't know the victim. Depending on the scenario, if I am in a tactical environment and now I am in that danger zone, active shooter scenario, for example, somebody is still going around shooting people, I'm not standing in that moment to create a chest seal to put to my victim, because this is making me a static target and I can become the next victim. I try, if I can, to extract, to take the victim from that place, because my victim is not dying in that particular moment, so it's taking some time. It's better that I extract it from there than to stay on the victim, trying to make a chest seal and being the next victim, because the shooter is targeting me. But if I am in a scenario where I can make this and I don't have so much dangers, there are not existing dangers around me, and I can focus on this, of course I'm putting the gloves, or I'm putting my victim to stop, to put his hand on the wound, or if I have another bystander, to put the hand on it to cover the wound. Until then, I am, of course, taking some duct tape. I am coming with this on the wound, and basically what I am doing, I will cover 3 sides of this square, 3 sides, and basically what I am letting free, it will be the one under. Why? Of course, my victim, it will not stay in this position, yeah? It will be laid down, so I can perform this type of procedure. What I'm doing, I'm coming with a duct tape, put it, stick it on it, break it. This is one side, again with another side coming on the other one, stick it, break it, and then on the third one. So I'm coming also here, making the same thing, breaking it after. And now I was putting my chest seal, making it very good so it's not remaining space between. So now I was putting my chest seal on 3 sides. So what is happening now? When my victim is breathing in, expanding his lungs, this it will be near his thoracic box, air cannot enter anymore out. But when it's contracting and giving air outside, air will exit on this side where I was not putting the duct tape. So this is functioning still like a vented chest seal that was having, sorry, a lot of glue, that was having these veins helping the air to exit, helping to drain the liquids or the blood. So it's the same procedure. Another variant, I put that now down, it's I'm using a square, putting the same, I want to put it in the same position, or I can use, for example, this plastic thing, the same. It's air will not enter through it, so it's having the same effect. But I have a better variant. At the beginning, when I was making this type of trauma courses, learning a few years ago about all these procedures, I was learning an improvised to make it how I was showing you, 3 sides and 1 free. But now a better variant of this is the next. So I'm putting this again, put your victim, put a bystander, use your hand. It will be more difficult, but make the same thing. What I'm making, I'm putting this on the wound, and now I'm not coming on the side, but on the corners. So 1 here, one here, one here, and 1 here. Stick it very good. Why this variant is much better than the other? Because at the other I was having only one side where the air can exit out. Now look here, if my victim wants to breathe in, on the hole cannot take any more air because this is stick on the wound, is not permitting air to enter, but when it's breathing out and air will exit from this hole, I have 1 side, 2 sides, 3 sides, 4 sides that they are permitting the air, liquid and so on, blood to exit from that pleura. So again, I was approaching a little bit, focusing more close to see. So it's not anymore like the other on 3 sides and 1 free. I make the corners 1, 2, 3, 4. So when the victim wants to breathe in, no air is passing, but when he's breathing out, he has 1 here to exit the air, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. So much better than the other variant. Yeah. Very simple thing, duct tape, stick it very good, then you plug the hole, it's helping, and it will have basically very close results, or maybe the same results like a commercial chest seal. The same if I have a hole on the back, an exit wound injury, I will make the same thing like here. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed the content. In the last weeks I was not able anymore to post because I am working so much to the last manual, Dirty Knife Tactics. I'm spending long nights creating drawing illustration and creating the instruction and text for the new book, for the new manual that probably it will be soon in 1 week. Stay safe, train hard.